Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, RTV.network.
The voice of Florida. Your voice is our choice with Dr. Karen Green.
Wow, c'est choix nous.
Tu voz es nuestra elección.
Ta voix, c'est notre choix.
The voice of Florida.
La voz de la Florida.
Your voice is our choice with Dr. Karen Green.
Greetings, good afternoon, and welcome to another week of The Voice of Florida here on One Love Connect and across the entire hemisphere. This is where we are today. Thank you for joining us for another week of The Voice of Florida. Today, unlike other weeks, is one of those times when, as you know, we've been focusing on the post effects of Hurricane Melissa in the tropics, particularly in my birthplace, Jamaica. And what we've been doing is looking at Jamaica from every aspect of our origin or culture or resilience and just the people who we are out of many one people. Now, we all know that Florida is, to many across the globe, Jamaica in another zone, another zip code. And part of the community here in the state of Florida is so diverse that we have a very large Caribbean community. Now, as you know, for the recent weeks, we've been covering our people. Today, before I can even take a moment, I am so honored to have with us this afternoon part of our culture, or indigenous culture of Rastafari in Jamaica. We have with us this afternoon, and I just want to take this moment to just tell our viewers across the globe, we thank you for taking the time today to join us. We know you could be anywhere else, but this afternoon we are continuing to build on our resilience, the value of our ancestors, and at a time right now when the world is recognizing a holiday season, we want to take this moment to just share with you, to the world, where we are and where we're going. My brother, the elder, one who you will all come to know this afternoon to be who he is, what he stands for, and the values he has been sustaining and maintaining in our culture or historical Jamaica landscape. First man is what we refer to, is who we refer to, a distinguished gentleman who many of you will come to know after this interview, is one of the founders of the Rastafari Indigenous Village in Jamaica, outside of Montego Bay. Folks in the world who've come to know Jamaica will go here because of the values of this body of people. You know, Rasta to many folks is what they think is music only. But Rastafari is a religion, one that comes with a revered respect, and not just only the cultures and practices, but it is truly a part of our Jamaican origin and inheritance out of Africa. We're going to hear so much more of our brother. He has been an advocate, a leader, leading in so many areas, part of our cannabis industry. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself fully, but we want to know that this man has been an advisor, one who is respected across the globe, one who I came to know recently, not only because of the introductions I've had, but because I had the blessing of speaking with him. And I was profoundly educated, reintroduced to a body of people that I once identified with in my own faith. And so this afternoon, my brother, without further ado, First Man, whose name from the colonial days is one of one who my father's middle name was, I must tell you, Edward Ray. So let me just first say thank you for joining us, First Man. It's going to be a great afternoon. Thank you for joining our audience. Welcome, my brother. Blessings, Elder. Tell us a little
Yes.
more about you.
Yeah, I mean, pleasant, good day. It's very hot right here in Jamaica, melting. And I myself, yes, as you say, I'm Rastafari. I hail from this island, and as a result of that, that makes me a particular uh, type of existence, because this island has been, imposed upon, as everyone know the history, and it makes your identity a very, very wayward. Like, you can't necessarily say who you are, because who you are would be definitely coming from your bloodline, your tradition, your heritage, what your parents stand for, and all of that has been stolen away from us. So we only know the only closest way we could identify ourselves is through the divine name of Emperor Haile King Selassie I, Rastafari, which has given us this identity, this connection, this way how to see Africa when so much darkness was placed over it, an opportunity to see your history and make your present self fit within the context of that history. So yes, that makes us into things like, as you would say, no one really want to be an advocate. No one really want to be a revolutionary. Everyone just wants to be a father, a person. But just based on the conditioning and living in a space, one of my teachers called this the West, Naba Irita, he calls the West the culture of anti-culture. When you live in a space where there's a culture of anti-culture, it really gives you, definitions that you have to weave, to find and define yourself. But yes, we stand on integrity and principles, and that's the best way how we can define ourselves.
The First Man, again, I'm overwhelmed to have you here, because not only are you going to be expounding more understanding of what Rasta is, but beyond that, the Rastafari village. And I want to talk about you before we even get into that area of introduction to a part of Jamaica that people only hear of sometimes. And because of tourism and the interest of Rasta, people get a chance to come to this organized community that folks don't even know exists to some extent. I'm aware that you played a major role in advising the government on the cannabis industry. I also know that you've played a major role in just introducing or culture from an indigenous space. The world is now seeing indigenous religions and heritage as such. In Jamaica, we have the Maroons, which we are all familiar with in the response to the colonial fight. But somehow, tell us a little more about what Rasta give, what we need to know in the diaspora across the world today, because this is the audience you have, before we even get into the resilience of how you came out of Hurricane Melissa and still be there to stand and to teach more. Tell us, what is Rasta to you and the world who needs to know about it?
Yeah, colonialism was one of the global darkness. Darkness has always been, in different parts of the world. But for the first time, 500 years ago, that darkness became global, where wherever you are on the planet, it affected you. And as a result of that, moving people in this kind of a way from their belonging, from their becoming, from their heritage, from the stories of their grandmothers, their grandfathers, and from the values that humanity would exist on, which is the family values, we would have now been embarked into this space of nuclear, a very nuclear world where, everyone is trying to become what they are not. And, when you grow up in Jamaica, you're going to be growing up in a Christian home. You're going to be having some kind of a religious background, because those backgrounds will be how the systems put to really control the minds of people, So, I hear you saying Rastafari, and religion, and most of our community will never agree with that, because they will only see Rastafari as a way of life. And what that would mean is we would have to ask ourselves the question, what is life? And the ultimatum of life, what makes life life, is nature. Like, we are nothing without the celestial planet that we're on. So it's really, how do we conform? How do we submit? How do we humble ourselves to nature? Would be how we find ourselves looking to the path of Rastafari. So there comes a time when, after reading the Bible and you see that, you know, all the images in there are like of Caucasian people, and it only can take you that far. And after, you know, coming to that threshold, the next step is, who really are you? Because it doesn't speak about you, but this is the morality that you're standing on for years growing up, you know. Then after you start to ask that question, then you have to take a look at your shade, the color that you are, you know. You have to then start to look into history, and then that is going to lead you into reality, and hence that is going to lead you into Rastafari. Because the Ethiopic consciousness was one of the only things that the diaspora had to hold on to. Ethiopia stands sovereign, even though gridlocked by so much slavery and everything, but Ethiopia shone this light, you know, that the diaspora could hold on to as one of the oldest nations on the earth that represented this morality that was imposed on us, which was Christianity. And after seeing that, and you start to study that, it's the more you will get, you know, into your African consciousness, and seeing that light on November 2nd, 1930, when Emperor Haile King Selassie was crowned. You know, I remember one of my ancients saying that he never even knew that a black man could be called a king. You know, that was how far our self-esteem, you know, our history was so traumatized that we didn't know the history of ourselves and know the great kingdoms that we're coming from as a people. So, you know, then Rastafari started to, you know, embrace all of these names. So you will see a lot of people in Rastafari will call themselves King so-and-so or Queen so-and-so. And even though those titles, they do come with a lot of discipline and training and so on, but we had to find a way how to empower ourselves as emperor and empresses, because we were placed even below slave.
So my brother, Elder, let me just interject at that point, because it leads me now to ask the question, Elder, how did you come by the name First Man? Because we're talking about names, so tell me.
You know, there is an aspect of the Rastafari community that only see nature as the ultimate guide, right? That really sees that the consciousness of nature is the ultimate authority. And as a result of that, the way how nature has been dealt with, we see nature as something in the anti-cultural world that we exploit and not something that we revere. So for me to find that path where we can humble ourselves to nature, we had to become like the first man. The first man is not necessarily a name, it's a path. You know, it's a path. It's a path of, so in Rastafari, the names that you choose is normally the names that to give you your becoming, what you're aspiring to be. You know, so in on the path of first man, you're really aspiring to interact with how the first man interacted with the world, understanding that in this moment, everything that you have, if you didn't have any clothes, if you didn't have any this, if you didn't have any that, you could find that peace and joy to know that you're okay. Right?
That is so profound, because you talk about the earth. And one of the things that I've been focusing on this program since Hurricane Melissa is the agricultural losses and sustenance in Jamaica. And I'm familiar that I think you're one of the founding members of the Grass Growers in Jamaica. And so we're going to be touching on that for this, you know, as we move forward. But tell me a little about that, because you are part of the grassroots growers in agriculture. What exactly does that encompass?
Well, what you're talking about is a group of Rastafari ones coming together to recognize their ecosystem, that their holy sacrament cannabis, ganja, as we know it, and how that has really been exploited by the government. And this effort was to come together to show that you know the ganja community, the Rastafari ganja community, has been there for because there has been an amendment in 2015, and the way how the amendment came in, it came in a way to bring in, you know, what you would call overseas investors to really build out on the brand of Jamaica's, you know, ganja economy. And this is something that goes, when you ask me about, you know, the Rastafari indigenous village and it coming together, one of the main purposes was to really bring back all our rights that are being violated, our economic rights, or social rights, or spiritual rights. And within the ganja amendment, we could see how our economic, or spiritual, and our social rights were going to be affected. And hence, we had to look at how we as Rastafari survived over the years. Over the years, a lot of time as Rastafari, if you would just have a seed of ganja, a seed from the ganja plant, it would be 1 year and 6 months mandatory in prison.
Wow.
Yes? Just a seed, yes? So as a result of that, we recognize that the people who are non-Rastafari, we call them our brothers and sisters, they would have been the one also who would supply us, you know, because they had not an easier part, but an easier part, you know, instead of us. So when the amendment was made, we had to see Rastafari and non-Rastafari as a part of our ecosystem. We had to start to see how best we could lobby on their behalf to ensure that they could be protected. All of us farmers could be protected. And hence, there are cultural barriers, language barriers that exist between the government of them understanding what sacrament means to us, what the holy herb means to us. And we had to create that kind of an interface to ensure that there could be some oversight.
You know, that's where I was heading. I'm somewhat familiar with the advocacy that you played a major part in. And it came from a religious place, as well as this is one of the reasons why you were able to get this sacramental allowance within our society in Jamaica, to have that somewhat of a privilege or some kind of legislative ability to have some kind of, there was an assessed amount, I think, if I'm not mistaken, an allotment of plants and accessibility and usage. I think that was allowed to the Rasta culture. And we'll talk more about that. You know, it's amazing that we can see now the world, something that Rastas have been saying for a long time about the healing effects of marijuana, the different effects. From our own country, Jamaica, we know that the values of marijuana was used to help to create a treatment for glaucoma. As one of the first universal recognized medicinal use for marijuana. We also know that in now within the medical extreme critical care illnesses, we now know that it is now a medicinal recommendation for cannabis to be used for palliative care and for terminally ill folks. That has now become almost an allowance for people dealing with, you know, critical illnesses, nervous systems, etc., and pain management, you name it. And only recently, in many states, particularly in the state of Florida, which I am here, as you said, in 2017, I think it was when you had that allowance, not too long ago, within the last 2 decades. Here in Florida, we were able to pass a legislative medical marijuana bill that allowed that access to folks in Florida for people who are critically ill to get the acceptance, the allowances legally to be able to get this prescription drug. But we're going to talk more as we move into our first commercial break here on the Voice of Florida. I want to share with everyone in our viewing audience that today we have First Man, a man who represents the Rastafari indigenous society culture globally, one who is not only voiced, but one who's lived the life, walked the walk, and is respected across the globe as we move into our first commercial break. Thank you again for joining us on The Voice of Florida. We're going to get into this discussion because, First Man, I know you have so much to share with us. And we're so eager to hear what is happening and what you've done for our community there in Jamaica as it relates to the post-Melissa effects. So we're waiting for our first commercial break. I don't want us to cut on an on-time space. So we're here talking our way through it.
Yes. I think what should be definitely clear is that in 2020, ganja was essential service in the USA.
Let us pause for this first break. We got to take the commercial, not the marijuana money, but we need to move into it so folks can hear us. Let's move into our first commercial. Thank you all for viewing.
Imagine, if you will, a single point of connection that puts at your fingertips all of the things that we do in our daily lives with ease of access and convenience. Whether in your personal life, for work, travel, and entertainment with family, friends, and in your work life. The new OneConnect app is all you need to make your life more manageable and efficient in maximizing the best use of your time. The OneConnect app is your new connection in a world of busy people with lots to do and not enough time to get things done. OneConnect app was created with you in mind and is all you need. Download OneConnect app now. Also visit us at www.oneconnectapp.com.
Hello everybody, welcome back for another Healthy Minute. If you want to boost your brain health, make sure you eat more foods that are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, foods such as salmon and sardines. And if you want to increase your protein content, which is also excellent for your body, add some codfish. Fresh codfish in fact, is low in mercury, high in protein, and has a great number of vitamins and minerals. For this Healthy Minute, I'm Dr. Hafizullah. See you again soon. Thank you for watching. Please remember to click subscribe for the latest videos and updates. See you soon.
Reimagine a world where the Caribbean is seamlessly connected, where our people, our cultures, and our economies move freely across the islands. This is Connect Caribbean, more than a ferry service. It's the heartbeat of a new era, an era where economic opportunities expand, where trade flows freely across our seas, and cultural exchange flourishes. We are linking businesses, empowering communities, and reigniting the hope for a truly integrated Caribbean. Together, we're shaping a brighter, more unified future for the Caribbean. Connect Caribbean, connecting our islands, our people, our future.
Today we're taking a little vacation on the west end of St. Croix, visiting a seaside restaurant called the Beachside Cafe here at Sandcastles on the Beach.
The atmosphere is just wonderful.
You just feel very welcome when you're here.
Hi! I'd like to introduce Chris and Ted, who are the owners of Beachside Cafe and also Sandcastles on the Beach. This is amazing!
Thank you.
Sandcastle on the Beach is quiet and friendly, relaxing.
I often entertain guests, and this is the one place I always try to bring people.
Tell us a little bit about the hotel.
Well, the hotel is a 25-room hotel. We have 10 different room types within that We also have, of course, our greatest asset, the ocean out there, which our side of the island is very calm typically. So it's the best swimming beach and also great for snorkeling.
And just walking, doing a nice walking beach tour.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Best beach access is right here, so we love them.
And we're also fortunate we have just up the way Sandy Point National Park, and then Frederickstead Town is just a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really fortunate to be in this perfect spot.
The voice of Florida. Your voice is our choice with Dr. Karen Green.
Wow, c'est choix nous.
Welcome back to One Love Connect here on the Voice of Florida. Here we're moving into our second segment, and we're just so excited this afternoon to have with us none other than First Man, a Rastafari advocate, leader, elder there in Jamaica, in an era where folks have come to know across the globe as the Rasta Village. Before we move into that, I also want to take an opportunity to express our guest or second guest who was supposed to join us this afternoon, our beloved, hardest working Consul General Oliver Meir here in the state of Florida. He'll be joining us next week for an exclusive interview leading into the fundraising event we're having for the state of Florida towards the Melissa recovery proceeds and efforts. So we're here this afternoon again, thanking our brother Elder First Man. First Man, I wanted to share with the audience that my knowledge of what your contribution of Rasta Village was post Hurricane Melissa. I know that I was told that you were almost an oasis there at Rasta Village, where people from the community were able to come to Rasta Village, and there was water, there was food, there was sustenance, there was agricultural support in an era that was devastation all around. I am told that part of the only thing that you might have experienced at the time, because you were wise enough to have solar energy and garnered all the support of a community, a communal community, to help people around you. And I want you to spend 2 minutes on that for me before we move into the real feel of your agricultural collaboration. But tell me, what was Rasta Village to the surrounding community during post-Melissa?
I think it's just more the concept of relational wealth, where and the harmonizing with nature. Because, from the village started, we did start with solar power, then kind of lost it, went to the regular thing, and then we got back to solar power again, and, our system is biodigested, in terms of how we deal with our waste and so on. So it has always been just the concept to protect the planet and to live in harmony with the planet. And, in my former life, I used to be like, in building. So we kind of understood a little bit in terms of when you're making roof, you just don't make your overhangs too much, and did our preparation for securing the roofs in building and even while the hurricane was coming. So as a result of that, once the hurricane hit, we had our own way of communication. We had our own ways of keeping things, still at a particular level, because we were a little bit off the grid, as it relates to the system, both in communication, in energy, and the water. We definitely had to work hard on that one. We got some support from a group, Spirit, I don't remember their names right now, and another group, House of Dread in England, and they assisted us to get, like sand filters and so on, to ensure that we could have some clean water coming into the village. So it was just more building your resilience, to be more in harmony and with the cycles of nature, because we do have a hurricane season, you know what I mean? So as a result of that, to be caught with your pants down when this is how your year move is kind of not really sensible,
Right. Well, I heard from just the testimonials of folks who are familiar with you outside of London, Ethiopia, and otherwise, that this was really a hub, an oasis in all honesty, that during everything, all you lost was like the surrounding fences. Like the devastation was where there was loss. However, and you tell us a little bit about that, because I'm told that
and
structure.
there was some significant loss in terms of like, there were 3 or 4 homes, that were blown down for sure. I myself lost my entire space. Everything that I would have gathered over time was drowned in water. I was not necessarily on the island when it happened. I came about 5 days after, and just walked into what considered to be just total mess, But the villagers, the concept of a village, not just living by yourself, that was good. The concept of a village, because everyone was there, the Rary, Dawes, Queen Eye, everyone was there, protecting elders, protecting each other. So we never felt alone in that regards. And then, as I say, we were able to have communication by the very next day, because I'm not trying to promote how we get those promotion, those communication going, and we had power. We still were able to, when we were assisting people, we were able to get things that could be refrigerated to pass on to people, because we had that kind of so people were not just struck out completely. There was a moment of transition, after that we had our own problems in terms of losing our solar power along the way, because damage to wires that took place in the space. So even right now it's down. However, we have a generator going and looking forward to get that back up to as well, But it was really to preempt these things and to go before the curve. It is going to be very, very important in this.
So first, man, what I'm hearing from you is that there is a lesson to be learned, that we can actually, you are in a position to teach the preceding preparations. The fact that it takes a village to collaborate, that kind of communal life experience, where we know today that there have been devastation. There are areas in Jamaica and folks across the globe. It's almost 2 months. On the 28th, it will be 2 months since Hurricane Melissa hit. And a lot of us across the world believe, because we're trying to get to some level of normality in Jamaica, that the devastation is no longer there. Let us be clear that there are areas in Westmoreland, Hanover, St. Elizabeth, and even in St. James, where our brother is, that there is still devastation. There is still everything that you can imagine is unimaginable, because it is how bad it is. But what First Man is saying to us, I'm sorry to interject, my brother, is that there is sustainability based on preparation, camaraderie, and a level of just being a naturalist. Tell us a little more about the fact that here we are, and I want you to expand on the agricultural piece beyond this. Tell us, share with us now what goes into this, and if you're prepared to tell the world how you do this.
Right. So, as I say, it's just about seeing nature as the ultimate and not working against it. Yes. So recognizing that there is a hurricane season is no different from recognizing that there is a winter season. There's an autumn season. Nature is what is ruling. So as a result of that, you don't just build without recognizing nature. You would have to recognize nature. And, in that recognition, we had some things, because we love this idea that, we could be close to nature and almost build our village in a river. And that river came all the way up and almost washed us, so it's not like I'm standing here as any perfect example, because the water came so far up into the building that it was at our face base and height, like 3'6". This was not an ordinary situation, historic danger that our kitchen is not put back up yet. It's only just today that I went and got some zinc to try and repair our elder's house. What I'm saying is that we were, though, able to have our own shelter within our own space.
Okay.
Just based on how some of the buildings were secured mainly because we got proper funding for those buildings. But the other buildings that we didn't get funding for were like the normal Jamaican level of construction. And yes, those were blown away and really has put us in a setback where the livelihood is a problem. However, we were able to be that oasis of communication, of energy, and just see that if we had the type of resources that we wanted, we would have also been a better space for, agro-processing and all of those. It just highlighted how much more stronger and resilient we can be if we are caught in a hurricane that can't go above Category 5.
Let's touch on that for a minute, Elder. So for one, it's the resilience. It is also the fact that the preparation was there. But you touched on two things. One being the building codes. Now, usually after a test of a Category 4 or 5, as we've experienced in this country, in the United States, there's always been modifications to building infrastructures and how we go about preparing for future storms. I can see from the effects of the areas that were most damaged, that there was no building codes, houses have been gone or destroyed. And so you two experienced those that had an investment, those who didn't, where the structural areas were. And then you touched on another area that to me is one of my primary concerns about the agricultural sustainability and recovery, right? You're talking about how you produce, for example, how are you now? Are you doing fundraising globally to get seeds, to do more infrastructure? And is the indigenous fundraising or recognition something that you have received there in Rasta Village?
Yeah, just to touch a little bit on the preparation side of it. As I say, it's more an awareness that if we were so much more prepared, because we're talking about nature and the way how this hurricane moved, it had a very, people were able to have very structured reasonings about it. However, you will see, like if you come to our place, we have a building there that was built out of canvas and it just didn't move. So there's a combination of what is blocking the wind. Is it under a mountain? There are many factors that would cause nature to operate the way how it operates, right? But in relation to building codes, you definitely could see that the building that we lost, all of them didn't have on hurricane straps, all of them, their heaves were a bit too wide. We could see the construction issues that took place in our village and where it didn't happen and where it happened. So it was very clear that building codes, we had building codes issues as well.
Okay.
When I went to our other members of our family, we could see where it is more systemic. Because like, for example, in Westmoreland, where land tenure is a problem, where the people do not own their property, they are coming from 1900s with a system called tenant farming, where what they would do, they would move their house to wherever they have a contract. And, this mobile home situation in Westmoreland is profound. So if your home is mobile, it simply means that the foundation is mobile and easy picking for a Category 5 hurricane. So this is systemic. It's systemic to the government in trying to allow people to be able to own their own land, and so that they can put structures in place that will, speak to the seasons and the cycles that exist in this particular country.
So I saw in recent weeks that the government is now doing a title process, a title program where folks are now being able to do as you just described. We talk about Westmoreland and Hanover areas that generations of people living in tenancy or just living on the land. Now there's a process of now moving into that. But we'll talk more about that on another program, because I've seen where people are now getting in to request titles. Titles are being distributed or allocated for folks who have lived in these houses, on these lands for decades. So now they can actually do some recovery. I wanted to touch on the Rasta Village is a renowned, known global tourist attraction to some extent, right?
Visitors attraction.
Let me just say that I said tourist because people who come from across the world want to see it, right? Not just
Right.
Rasta, but how Rasta live, Rasta culture. And in all honesty, the drum is always a part of our origin. But here's where we are. The Jamaican tourist sector is preparing to open Jamaica. And I have been stressing from an agricultural place, agritourism. I'm also looking at redevelopment tourism and also looking to see how it is that your culture, not just yours, my culture, a Jamaican, where Rasta is now there. I want to ask, how is it you mentioned the processing of agritourism and the fact that there in Rasta Village, there is an economy. There is your economic, your commerce, your trade, your as you said, visiting tourism, visitors tourism, and to an extent, educational tourism, because that's where we need to be pushing this as well. Tell us a little more about what it is you're planting, what is it you want to plant, and how is it we can help you today on this program to reach an audience of contributors.
Yes. So it's I want to go back to why I would say visitors, because the way how tourism has been done as a database, a part of GDP, really disconnects us from the relational wealth that exists in tourism for just meeting people as people who come into your home as a country. And as a result of that, you find that there is this hustling mentality instead of actually knowing the people that are around you. And that's one of the differences that we took. The people who come to us would have to be people who become friends and family over time. And this is most of the people who you will see that gives us support is, like who we are calling volunteers, we could comfortably call our international family.
Family, okay.
Turned up, they ensure we know them by names. And, for a period of time, we had a tourism approach to it where we were doing like 50, 60 people a day. Now we stopped that and we have just sort of gone to maximum 6, maximum 10 people if it is a family, and they really come in and we get to know each other in a more immersive way. And we can see that this is the issue that exists in Jamaica, because there's a possibility that you could just be seen as a ATM card. You could just be seen as someone, how can I get the money? Instead of really knowing their names, knowing the skills that they have. So a lot of the things that have been shared with us, even right now, we are doing like earth bag buildings and so on. These are people who just saw that, listen, I know this family of Rastafari people. I would like to introduce them to regenerative homes. I'd like to introduce them to regenerative farming. I would like to support them in these areas. And you find that relational wealth is far, far more important than you just meeting someone for a time and a calculation is done that they may spend $80 a day. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Gotcha.
So this is why we speak to visitors. We speak to a kind of a international family relationship where we can have an international morality, as Emperor Haile Selassie I talk about, but more so collective security amongst ourselves, where we know each other, So a lot of the people, everything is guided in tourism. You need somebody to take you somewhere here, there, and all that does is just support the all-inclusive system, but it doesn't make you into a real country where people can just walk around free and build relationships.
So on that, we have come a long way with Jamaica tourism of all-inclusivity with these properties. So we're at a place now where I too will be promoting the travel industry, meaning that folks who want to get to see Rasta Village and the camaraderie and the family experience, long-term relationships that you speak of, the recurring farming that you speak of, is an area where I know many farmers across Jamaica right now would love to be able to see how this works. because we have people today who are scared after having gone through what they just did, losing everything in the farming industry. You know, we now know that there has to be an educational approach, and you bring to this entire recovery process the preceding, the ongoing, and the resilience of farming, right? So I just think this is also something that I look forward to expounding on this topic with you going forward, my brother. You know, we have a few more minutes to go, approximately, you know, another maybe 10 minutes to go into our introduction to you today, to the world on this network. And just to be clear, Callaloo Network, who happens to be one of our stream sponsors, you will be able to see us on Tempo across the region, all the way down into Central and South America, and also the Bloomberg affiliate networks. We want to welcome you, those who are just joining us. We have with us this afternoon, First Man, the elder of Rasta Village, one who has led the Rastafari movement, one who has been able to not only emphasize, but when it comes to the sacrament of marijuana within the faith, and also the cannabis industry of holistic health and natural living, is with us this afternoon. First Man, tell us, is there anything I'm missing this afternoon that you wanted to share with our viewing audience? Please share with us.
It's not about missing, but it's really about how can we find, you know, divinity in the ordinary. You know, through the words of Emperor Haile Selassie, you know, he urged us to become members of a new race. Mm-hmm. In our ultimate allegiance, not to nation, but to our fellow brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the how can we do that? The framework of individualism and capitalism does not really support that. And, you know, the main point we would have to look into is how do we get to culture? Because, you know, when you look at how homes are built in Jamaica, there's no place to plant. You know what I mean? That, you know, every housing scheme is really a scheme, you know? There's hardly even a place for people to hang their clothes. Wow. So when you look at the way how systems are developed right now, it's really the anti-cultural approach. And we would really love to get, it wasn't too long ago. People who were born in the 1980s, they know when, you know, living in rural Jamaica, once somebody has a farm, everybody will go there and help them to fork it up. Everybody will exchange seed amongst each other. Everybody will just do I live those systems of cooperation amongst ourselves. And to see that we the capitalist mind and the consumerism and the individualism has taken these things away from us. And as I say, the strongest part that I would love to see is the agro-processing. Where so much waste in this country, and then when there is something like a disaster, we find ourselves, you know, running around for aid, you know, when we have so much wastage in this country. So those are some of the points, and they are a layered process that require deepness from the communities themselves and from government themselves. But even without the government, if the community can be reminded of who they are and what are their own capabilities, we will find a nation within a nation that can represent this nation.
First Man, not only is that inspiring, but it's motivating for those who are listening. Do you have a mentorship or a sponsorship of young farmers? Is there a way to, because I know you're an educator. I've learned so much from the conversations we've had. And I'm saying that even from what you just described, an area of camaraderie, of community planting, of community support. Is there such a program of an introduction for folks, even right now for the recovery piece? Is there a way for Rasta Village, is there a facility at this point to host some kind of seminar or introduction, or allow anybody the knowledge, the teaching of what it is to do community farming? How can this empower others with this literacy?
So I would love for anyone who is interested, you know, you can definitely email us, because I wouldn't tell you that it is in place. But from COVID-19 until now, it's asking the questions, you know, and the message of Rastafari is coming out much, much louder, because we cannot continue moving away from the source, which is the earth. So now people are looking into that direction. we can't continue to wait on government. So anyone they want to contact us at Rastafari Indigenous Village at gmail.com. That's a good way how to send us an email.
Yes.
And www.rastavillage.com. That's our website.
Yes.
That you can, and RIV Retreats, which
Yes.
that's our Instagram page, where RIV Retreats, where you can also message us there too as well. And, let's bring this global collaboration together where we can learn. The amount of people I've learned from during this period, that just came out to share as to how to have clean water, how to work with different systems, for energy and so on. We have a road that is imposing on us, a highway.
Yes.
And as a result of that, we have kind of lost the sereneness. But our place, we want it to remain as an oasis, to balance out these destruction disguised as development approach that is taking place, because that's the only green space left in Montego Bay. And now our place is faced with extinction. So, we would really love to, we don't really own the land, and we are going to be putting out a land drive as well to see how best we can own the land. So yes, we are calling on the international family to ensure that this oasis does not go to waste, and the 2 decades that we have been there educating ourselves, educating children from schools, that we can continue this work for the planet.
I must tell you, before we get to the end of our show today, this is an inspiring conversation. First, man, when I was introduced to you, I knew this was going to be enlightening, but I know I'm seeing messages from folks telling me, how do I contact? And you just told us how they can actually reach out to the Rasta Village and the contacts of email and otherwise. I know that there are communities in Jamaica today, because I've been in tune with them in recent weeks, particularly in the agricultural sector. Folks who are just really having lost their bread and butter. There's no food. There's no way to plant. There's no seeds to plant. They're trying to find resources and just to be empowered. And I'm saying to you this afternoon, just from your teaching, how do we, and I would recommend, I know you said it's not something you've actually organized yet, but I'm inviting you to come back to our show so we can look at where things are. We're 2 months in. We want to see where things are with the road encroachment upon you. We want to see how your seed plant, your planting and your agro producing is working. We want to see how the female farmers in the village are advancing in what they're doing. And so, I'm just asking you this afternoon, I know audiences across the world are seeing your program this afternoon and saying, this is Rasta. This is indigenous experience of what we want to feel as a visitor coming to Jamaica. Remind folks where Rasta Village is. Remind folks where they can actually go to contribute to any of the endeavors you're working on. And just tell again, before you leave us this afternoon, just how blessed we are to have Rasta Village in Jamaica.
Yes, So, before I go to all of those reminders, one of the main things that we also did as Rastafari Indigenous Village is have a lot of local partners. And in our farming local partner, especially for the organic, we work with a group called Joam, and also Source Farm in St. Thomas that are doing beautiful work. And across the parishes, they have what is called the Genesis program, which is really bringing back original food, original farming concepts, and allowing farmers to know that you can still get a lot of yield without fertilizers. And as it relates to the environmental side of it, there's one place in my mind, well, at least 3. The Bluefields, over there in Westmoreland, are some of the greatest community workers that I've known, and they have been almost wiped out, and they are our partners.
That's where my mother.
Okay, there we go, and they are our partners as well. Yes. And the Coptic country, over there too as well. We have our family over there. So once you contact us at Rastafari Indigenous Village at gmail.com. Once you go to our website, rastavillage.com, or our Instagram page, RIV Retreats on Instagram. Then you will be able to, we can definitely direct you to that relational support, that partnership, because that's what we're interested in. We are interested in your skills, we are interested in your know-how, and we are interested in your support. As I say, we face these troubling times of restoration, resilience, especially people who are in construction too. We started our regenerative home project, of building with earth bags and looking into aircrete. So once you know these things, just come over so we can create this satellite in Rasta Village that can expand to the wider Jamaica.
Wonderful. So here it is. We have here on One Love Connection, oneloveconnect.com. We welcome you to this network. We're inviting you across the globe. Join us for oneloveconnect.com here on our network. Here on The Voice of Florida, you will continue to hear more from our diaspora, from our people who've been surviving, so not just surviving, but being resilient to what it is we experience in a Category 5+ hurricane post Melissa. Brother First Man, blessed love to you, my brother. Can we just pray for us more love, more blessings, and just one love as we come to build out. Thank you all for viewing us this week. First Man, one love. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Whatever you do for us, you do for ourselves. My friend Ras Bobby always say, we are not beggars, right? If you support anything in Rastafari, you're supporting yourself because it's a global consciousness.
As they would say, Jaja, one love, Rastafari.
Yes,
Thank you all for tuning into another week of here on The Voice of Florida. We will continue to support the endeavors in Jamaica post Hurricane Melissa. Blessings to you all. Thank you for joining us. God bless.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world. All in one place, RTV.network.